Hey folks, Gary here. Happy Monday morning to you. I hope your day is starting off just fantastic. What a great day to be alive. Every day that we're with God is a fantastic day. Sunday, we talked about God, and we talked about God's desire that you would know Him as your Father, that you would know Him as a benevolent, loving, kind, generous, merciful, glorious, loving you and giving you everything you need Father, like being the Father you always dreamed of. That's who God is, and more, that you would realize that and that you would grab onto it. And we also talked about finding joy in that, the joy of knowing God and being in His presence. Well, I want to springboard off that for this week. And this week I want to talk about truly living. What does it mean to truly live? How many of you have ever thought, man, if I was just a little bit taller or a little bit shorter, if I had curly hair, if I had straight hair, man, if I get rid of these freckles, or I wish I had freckles, all these kind of things that people wish. I wish I was older. How many guys remember wishing that? How many want to go back on that wish and say, no, I wish I was younger now? We always have this desire for something else, for something more. And then we live a life it's not content. You know what I'm saying? It's not right. That's why we wish those things. It's because we have this feeling inside that something is not right. If I just had this one more piece, then everything would be good. But that piece is so elusive, we can't find it. Well, I'd say I know what that piece is. It's actually Jesus. And if you have that, if you have God, that fills that hole that is shaped like God. And that brings that. You start to truly live through God, truly live through your life with Jesus. Where does this start, though? I believe it starts in Genesis chapter 3. Of course, in Genesis, the beginning of Genesis, we read about the creation. We read about Adam and Eve, and they are created in the image of God. God creates them in His image. They are image bearers of God. Sometimes I think, well, what does that mean? Does that mean God looks like me? No, not at all. God does not look like this, but we bear some of His image, is what happens. And part of that image bearing is that we have a job. What is our job? Well, Adam and Eve's job was to protect creation. They were caretakers of the garden, caretakers of creation. So they were to protect it, keeping chaos from coming in. And what do? Well, they eat from the tree they're not supposed to eat from, and so they introduce chaos in. They bring chaos into the garden, and of course we know that there was a fall of man that took place. Now, what happened? Well, in verse 7 of Genesis chapter 3, we read this. Right after they eat from that fruit, it says, at that moment their eyes were opened, and they suddenly felt shame at their nakedness. At that moment they felt shame. At that moment, they felt shame of their nakedness. They started sewing leaves together to cover themselves. They had no issue before that. But as soon as that happened, they felt incredibly exposed because they've damaged their relationship with God. Later on, God comes looking for them. God knows where to find them. It's all rhetorical, but God works this out for them. And so He says to them, He says, where are you? Verse 9. Then the Lord God called out to the man, where are you? And Adam replied, I heard you walking in the garden, so I hid. I was afraid because I was naked. Who told you that you were naked? The Lord God asked. Have you eaten from the tree whose fruit I commanded you not to eat? Again, rhetorical question. God already knows. Something was lost at that moment. At that moment, Adam and Eve were no longer complete. They didn't feel complete. I need something else now. And that's been passed down to us through all these generations. What do we need? We need that relationship restored with God. And of course, Jesus has done that on the cross for us. We have access to God. So the part that we're missing, the part we're searching for, is found in Jesus. It's found in Him. That's how we truly live. We truly live through Jesus. And no more, it's like, I got to have this one thing or this thing. No, what I need is more of Jesus in my life. I need to give my life completely over to Him. When we do that, when we do that, then things end up feeling really right. And we're no longer longing for that other stuff so much because we found what we need. What we need is Jesus.